I'll jump right into it, answering the question, why use LookerStudio? I was watching Krista talk, and at the end of it, many people were asking for, how can I do this, when that will be available? And one of the great reasons to use LookerStudio is because it is mature. It has been around for years, and it complements GA4 pretty well. For example, views, and people request views or not, they don't exist in GA4. And if you create custom reports, they're available for everybody on LookerStudio. You can create them and just share with a couple people, and they will just have access to that filter view or that filter report in LookerStudio. Also, sharing reports between people, LookerStudio works pretty well. Sharing reports between properties with yourself. Okay, I've configured this report for this GA or for this site, and I want the same report for another site. Not possible still in explorations in GA4, totally possible on LookerStudio. Explorations too, it's faster. In my opinion, it's faster on LookerStudio because you don't need to pre-select all the dimensions and metrics, all the columns you're going to use on the report you're creating. On LookerStudio, you just have them all available all the time. It's pretty easy to drag and drop. And the last one for complementing GA reports, annotations, is not as easy. It was on Google Analytics and Universal Analytics, but it's possible to recreate annotations in LookerStudio. So for quick reasons for using LookerStudio with GA, so I'm getting a slide from the middle of the presentation, bringing it back because I thought it was relevant, but then I'll go back to the beginning of the presentation. For other reasons, saving time, avoiding repetitions. It is pretty common for me to see people, companies doing a lot of manual work every week, every month. And if you're able to separate data from analysis, for example, you connect to the data source, in this case, GA4, or you simply download the data from Facebook or whatever ads you're running. And then instead of manually going through the data on a spreadsheet, on Excel, on Google Sheet, if you just download the data and then connect to the data and do the filtering, the exploration, the visualization, all in LookerStudio or Tableau or Power BI, then you're going to save a lot of time because you will not need to do that manually work again. You just need to update the data source. You need to replace the file or copy and paste on the Google Sheet the new data, you just download it and you will automatically update all your reports. So it saves a lot of time separating data from analysis, right? And I've used Excel for many years, and in the last 5 years, I cannot remember using Excel or a Google Sheet to do any analysis. I get a lot of access to a lot of Excel files and Google Sheets, and what I do is simply connect Tableau, connect LookerStudio to it, and I do analysis there. And when I need to update it, it's pretty fast. So it's totally doable. You don't need to mess around with data on the spreadsheets. Share reports online free. So that's exclusive to LookerStudio. If you try to share reports online using Tableau, who is going to access these reports need to pay licenses. If you try the same with Power BI, you're gonna need to pay licenses for every user that is just going to consume. It is cheaper than the license to create the reports, but you need to pay for every user that is going to consume these reports. Not in LookerStudio. You can create a report and share it with 50 people, and only them will be able to access, and it's completely free. So great motives to use LookerStudio, right? Going back to the main point, advanced analytics. How can we democratize? How can we get advanced techniques, advanced tools widespread in the company? How can we give access to a wide variety of people inside the company to use the power of data? That's the concept here. And usually you see people on that stage, they find it impossible. They're just like, yeah, we cannot do it. We tried this, we tried that, we tried, and this is like a stair, some stairs. So steps on the stairs, and okay, they've learned to use Excel, PowerPoint. They have learned to use GA4, Google Ads, Facebook, Business Manager, all these tools. Given this step is a great step, but after that, how can we go further? How can we be more like big tech companies? And they try many different things. When they try many different things, it still looks like this. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of this. They create like mini monsters that will not fly. They try to go too fast with too little, or they try to do big things not being prepared enough, and it doesn't end well. So the good news, it is doable. We can make it possible. We can make lemonade out of these lemons we got, and one way is to use LookerStudio, but the path goes a long way beyond LookerStudio, and we're going to dive into this journey. Okay, we're going to share with you 15 resources on how to do it, and it will not cost you more than $50. Promise you. You'll see it by the end of the talk. So all the resources I'm going to share with you, $50 pays for all of this. Okay, so we're going to go through resources for the C-level, resources for the middle management, and resources for the individual contributors. By individual contributors, I mean data analysts, data engineers, data scientists, many different jobs, okay? And then we are going to wrap up putting LookerStudio, GA4, and BigQuery, where is the place of them in all this, and how we tie all this together. Right. A little bit about me. How did I start on this journey? There was a day, a specific day, a very frustrating day for me. It was 2015, September 24th. And it was just after I attended to the first ever workshop of W3C about digital marketing. And the guy that sat beside me worked for Apple, and we were both flying back to during the event, and then after the event we were flying back to California, and I ended up having a cup of coffee with the guys responsible for the e-commerce. Apple e-commerce in the United States was one guy, and the e-commerce out of the United States globally was another guy, and I had a coffee with them. It was a pleasure meeting them, but it was extremely frustrating because I didn't know how to help them. Simple as that. And I was used to be the guy with the right answers. And I've started programming when I was 12 years old. I've started creating sites in 1999. So 2015, I was pretty experienced, but I couldn't help them. And that sent me into a journey of 8 years. So that's kind of the summary of that 8 years journey, right? I've attended to many different conferences and in different countries. basically trying to put these different areas of knowledge together. So that's my expertise. So my background is computer science, and I have an MBA. I've completed over 200 projects, data projects for companies like McDonald's, Toyota, Samsung, Decathlon, Sephora, Intel, many more. It has been a privilege and a pleasure. And I've done these projects as an independent consultant. So I own a company. Actually, I own two companies, one in the United States, one in Brazil. So I'm one guy international, pretty rare, but I don't have employees. I work by myself, and I consult to enterprises usually and other agencies. Then I don't disclose information about those agencies, those other consultants. Okay, but take my advice with a grain of salt because I don't know everything. So I have basic knowledge of many topics, but I can talk in depth about business management, computer science, analytics, and digital marketing. That's my thing. So back to the point. Why use Google or why use LookerStudio? I've already answered that, but what if you have not started with LookerStudio yet? So then I'll advise you to know Kanani. He's a great guy, know him personally, and he puts out tons of good content out there. He also sells courses. So when I say independent, I forgot to mention, I don't get any commissions. The only money I make is direct from my clients. Okay, so anything I'm telling you to use here, I have no second thoughts about it. I'm not getting paid. I was not asked to talk about them. So no commissions, no anything. Okay. So you really should check Kanani. And there's a link for this playlist on YouTube. So after that, you can go back to this recording, or if you're already experienced in GA, I'll give you pro tips, ninja tips on how to create advanced reportings. I used LookerStudio since it was launched. It was Google Data Studio. I've used GA since 2006, basically since it was launched. I've used Google Tag Manager since it was launched. I've used GA with BigQuery since it was launched. So I've been using these tools for a lot of time, a long time. And one of the things many of my clients was questioning me was, how can I see this report on GA4? And I had to answer, oh, you need to recreate this report in LookerStudio. What about that report? No, nothing. You need to recreate them. And I would need to repeat that over and over to many clients. Then I had the idea, why don't I create the report everybody's asking and make it available? So that's GA4 Classic Mode. It's a standard LookerStudio dashboard, okay? You're safe. I don't have access to your data. You can just go to this link and use it right now. Don't do it right now. Stick to the end of the talk. But if you go to ga4classicmode.com, it will redirect to this LookerStudio template, and you just need to select your account there. Only you and Google have access to the data. And what you're seeing here is GA4 data from the demo account in this case, but you're going to see your GA4 data in the look and feel of Universal Analytics, right? So I'm going to share tips on how I create it. For example, this chart looks clean, right? There are two lines here. How did I manage to make it look clean? Because if you have used LookerStudio and you try to do it the native way, that's how it will look. Not so pretty, right? I prefer my way. How did I do it? I but I made the chart transparent and I just draw 2 lines on the back of it. So it's just no grid, transparent, and I draw 2 lines in the back of it. I just put it as the background of the chart. And you're going to see a theme here and several hacks to make it do what you want. But it's doable. So don't give up if the native configuration doesn't allow you to do exactly what you want. Be creative. Next tip. Can you see this on and off comparison here? When you click on, this is what happens. Lots of things. The data comparison turns on for many different things at once. How's that so? Basically, it's just a different page. See? We were in overview. Now we are on overview, data comparison. And these buttons here, I use them just as a link to the other page. So on overview, when you click on, it's just a button that takes you to the next page. Off doesn't take you anywhere. And here I invert the scenario. Now on doesn't take you anywhere, and off takes you back. It's a link to back to the overview. And how did I make it look like it turned it on and off? I just changed the colors. On this page, this is dark gray, light gray. And the other page I use different colors. Just playing with the colors and buttons. Okay, then you can, the tip is you can change lots of settings, duplicating the page, changing it, and making buttons that will link the 2 pages. This should be simple. Coming up with this pie chart here should be simple, but there's a bug. If you try to just use the visitor type and number of users, you're going to get different numbers than what shows up in your GA4. The calculation is wrong. So what I had to do is figure out a way of showing 2 different numbers, and that's useful in different scenarios. So the tip is, how can I show 2 different numbers, users, new users? In this case was new users and users minus new users. That users minus new users gives you the returning users. So how can you show 2 different metrics in the same chart? So that trick I learned from Nico Brooks. Shout out to him from 2 Octobers. And this is the link to the video where he explains how to use the coalesce function. Very powerful function, can help you in many different situations. So we recommend checking it out. Next tip, if you know about report level filters, for example, what are report level filters? The date filter. When you filter by date, you expect all the pages to be filtered by the same date. I mean, if you selected the last 7 days and you change to another report, you expect it to still be filtered by the last 7 days. How do you do this on LookerStudio? You right-click the filter and you put it on report level, okay? When you make it report level, it will show up in every page, like you are not. And if you move it in one page, it will move in all the other pages, right? And how can you make it disappear in one page? See? Disappear. But the trick is simple. You go into the theme and layout. You choose it to be on the position of bottom and on the back, right? And then you drag a white rectangle over it, and it will be there. It will just not be visible on the view mode, right? So, and the last tip about tricks and on LookerStudio is how can you have like grouping of columns? By default, you just have columns. Yeah, it is still just a table with columns, and rectangles drawn in the back of it, and text using the same font and color. So this is just a simple table and some rectangles drawn, transparent table, rectangles, and text. Grouping it visually. It's not a configuration. Okay. So, now, why use GA4 and BigQuery? Basically extract more value from data. Here, there are questions, for example, simple questions. Users who bought 3 different products on the last 30 days. The different is not possible to do in segments. You can do 3 products, not 2 different products. So there are several scenarios where the question is not solvable through the interface. You need to use SQL. Okay? Deeper analysis is to this, join GA4 with other user level data. You can enrich your CRM data with the behavior the users showed on your site, on your app. And a recent feature is now the export data for BigQuery. You can check a new checkbox there, and you also export the predictions of likelihood to purchase in the next 7 days, likelihood to churn, not visit the site in the next 7 days, down to user level, and the revenue expected for the next 28 days. Imagine reaching your CRM with this data, or even using it to run other campaigns. You could upload this data you can join, filter this data with your CRM and use it to run campaigns, for example, on Facebook, right? Based on the prediction that Google created based on the behavior in the site of the app. Really good reason, you're going to own your own data. It will not be deleted. If you don't export it, it will be deleted after 14 months, and just the summary of it will be kept. And last step, it's less motive. It's a step towards advanced analytics. So back to advanced analytics. How can we go from this to this, back to the resources, right? There's 3 foundational concepts of digital transformation, right? This concept's first concept. If you make decisions precise and quick, you get a competitive advantage. If you go straight, you will get farther than going around and around, even putting less effort, right? So precise and speed. So the question becomes, how can we be precise and quick? Thinking over it for many years, I came up with this formula for competitiveness. Basically, what I say, this is a company. You have the CEO, the C-level, we have the customers, and information goes up. It might be data, it might be already insights, it goes up. And along all the way, people make decisions and they take actions. So the faster information goes up precisely, good information, good insights go up precisely, the faster they go up and they come down as decisions and actions, the more competitive a company is, right? And there's a third factor. The speed of information, the changes in the technology in the last decades make the speed of information and actions increase tremendously. So we went from typewriters to computers, offline computers to online computers, then disconnected data. Nowadays, we still have many disconnected data sources. We join them manually, usually. And when we go from that to connect data sources in a data lake, decisions are made much faster because you're not spending 80% of the time getting data, trading data, just to be able to then spend 20% of your time analyzing data. You're saving 80% of the time just by joining this data and making it available quicker. And then you add on the top of that automated systems, and it just explodes. And the speed of you can decide, okay, we've analyzed it, and now we are going to automate it and keep an eye on it. For example, product recommendations. It makes no sense for us as humans try to choose the products we are going to show in a product page. Like, yes, you saw this product, you probably will like these other products. That's a job for machine learning. It's clear. And there are many other jobs for machine learning that we are not doing because it's not possible, because the data is disconnected. So once you connect the data inside the data lake, it becomes possible. So things are changing. And if you're not feeling thrilled and scared, you're not getting it. It's just like it's starting to drive. So much new things you can do, so much things that can go wrong. So that's definitely my sentiment. So diving into the resources, prepare for lots of links. Let's start with the top level one for C-level and middle management. McKinsey has just released a couple months ago a great book called Rewired. It focused on creating a roadmap, on telling you need to focus on value creation. It helps the C-level and middle management get inspired by who have done it. It changed your life. I had the opportunity to visit in California, Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, Apple, Airbnb, many other companies. When you go there and you see that they're just normal people with computers and desks, just like all of us, and you see it's doable. I can do it, and you get inspired by it. Just a careful note about this book: it could be more vendor independent, but I will show you resource to overcome this problem. Okay, so CEOs don't have much time, CMOs neither. So we start by sharing with them this 16-minute video, and then this other 3-minute video. These are about the book. So it's a 300-page book, it takes a while. So this will get them scared and thrilled to buy the book and really give it a go, right? And they share their knowledge of going through hundreds of digital transformations and what is there. That this is their 4.0 version of their internal playbook of how to do digital transformation. So this really tested and battle tested. Okay. Next one, now more from middle management. Enterprise big data lake. And the good point about this is it gives a great overview of how we got here, what was the process to build data warehouses, and how we can evolve them into data lakes. It talks about the human aspect, it talks about the technology aspect of this evolution. It introduces topics about self-service, data catalog, access management, when you have lots of users and lots of data sources. Just pay attention that when it talks about the technology, it's outdated. It's from 2019, but the concepts remain the same. So about the stack, you're gonna see other resources here. Don't worry about that. Data teams. So why most of data projects fail? That's the title of this talk, about from Jess Anderson, a great guy, know him personally too. And he wrote this book, also 300 pages or 400 pages book, not sure. But this 30-minute talk just blows your mind of how simple mistakes can totally ruin data projects. So check it out. A16Z is a little bit of a strategic management, a lot about the tools. So A16Z is a roadmap of what you need to do, what are the tools that you need for each of the elements. So it just packs. So you can see Looker here. You can, the GA would be a data source on this side, and we will just give you an overview of what you need for a data lake, a mature data lake, and you break it into steps. And we break into, okay, we need to do BI first. Okay, basic BI, but faster, right? The improvement of our data warehouse. How can we get the data warehouse ready for many people to use it? And that's the first step. Then, okay, now we want to do machine learning and build data products on top of this. Then the second step. And they also have an update of this for large language models. That basically means if you want to build something using ChatGPT or some open source version of it, this is what you need. This is how you train them. This is how you're going to allow people to use them. This is how you're going to operationalize it and keep an eye if it's working how it's supposed to be. Okay, also the link there. Fundamentals of Data Engineering. That's a bestseller book and really love it. It explains you the pros and cons about this. When you're trying to build this in your company, you're going to be faced with many challenging questions about which tool should I use for this problem? And that's what this book is about. So it shows you all the different types of tools that exist out there and how and put them together. But it will not tell you how to choose. You can see on those boxes, there are several options. So for choosing the tools, I advise you to use wisdom of crowd. Well, what I mean by that, try to find numbers about the tools you are going to evaluate. Let's say you're evaluating 5 tools, trying to figure out 5, 6, 10 tools. The first thing, Google Trends, but it will show you basically the hype. So then Google Trends about people searching on YouTube, that it will show people that are really interested in learning more about this. That's a second level of engagement, of interest. Then you go into something like Star History that shows you the trend, the historical trend of people really liking it on GitHub if it's open source. That means people are really starting to use it. So hype, interested in learning, starting to use it. And then you go to something like IT Jobs Watch that show you the trend of jobs available that require using that tool. So the last step is companies are really hiring people to use it in production. So that's way better than just Google Trends, right? So, and then your mind explodes when you see this. This is the number of tools out there you can use for many different things. For example, LookerStudio is here, Google Analytics is here, but thing is, don't get too freaked out. Many of those tools, 2/3 of it are outdated. So people are not really using them anymore. So 1/3 of those tools are really important, and you need to evaluate where you're planning your stack. Then we get to the finals with digital analytics. here, that's the optimal use, in my opinion, of these three tools. You're going to use LookerStudio to give access to C-level, sometimes big numbers, middle management, a lot, so they can just keep an eye on important metrics and dive in if they need to. Then GA4, the green one, you're going to see data analysts using it a lot more. And then data engineers that are preparing things for LookerStudio or helping on deeper analysis. The data scientists, they're going to use more BigQuery. Okay, that's one tool gives data to the next one, right? And that's where I see the place of digital analytics in a digital transformation. Digital analytics is part of analytics. Our analytics is part of a modern stack that is not just for analytics, it's for data products as well, and operations. And a modern stack is part of digital transformation. Digital transformation is part of something that needs to be guided by value creation, not by shiny new tools, shiny new hypes that focus on value creation. Don't forget that people will need to use these new tools, so they need to be reskilled. You need to hire new people, and just don't lose track of what value you're creating, where we're helping, serving our customers, internal and external customers. And one more thing. Already learning. Remember I said less than $50? Well, it's less than $50 per month, but all the books I shared are available. You don't need to buy them individually. I pay for Already Learning before. Already Learning, what is it? It's just like Netflix for books, video courses, conferences, but it's not just limited to O'Reilly material, O'Reilly books. It has books many different places there. So all the books I recommended you, I've known them firstly on O'Reilly, read them, but usually they are quite thick. And then when I really want to dive in, I buy the physical copy. Though don't go cheap on learning. I've spent a lot of money on learning, and it always pays off. It is more valuable than gold. Knowledge and wisdom is more valuable than gold. As Jesus said, the truth will set you free. So there's no way for you to know the truth if you're not looking for it, right? So if you're fooling yourself, you're doing a disfavor to yourself. So there you're going to find conferences. If you know where to look, you can find companies sharing their stack. It is no secret, but you need to know where to look for. That's Netflix sharing their stack, which tools they're using, how they're using, what they are planning to improve on it, and you can find it for years. You can go back, okay, what was their stack on like 1999, 2020, 2021, 21, 22, right? And for many different companies. So it was for many years my second Google. Now is my fourth Google. Now I use Google, then ChatGPT paid version, then Bard for updated information, then I use Already Learning. With that, we go to questions. I don't think I have time for questions, but we can talk on Kumo Space. It will be my pleasure.
Oops. Hi, Andre. Thanks so much for that. Some really good insights. Lots of people kind of asking for slides in the chat. Technically we're out of time, but I'll email you the questions. The Kumo Space link I've also just put into chat now, as everyone, and also for the slides I've just put the link to the speakers feedback, and people can fill that in and get to the thank you page for the slides. But I normally tell people wait 24 hours just because we may need to do like slight updates to the slides, etc.
Yeah, no, the slides are ready.
Yeah, and so oops, screen. So I'm just going to take over presenter control and
see you guys in Kuma Space.
yes, yeah, and actually we've got a slight about a 20-minute break before the next talk, so chance for people to chat in Kumo Space. Yeah, as I said, I've put the link to Kumo Space so you can actually Andre navigate to your picture or the room sort of thing in there. Just one note: you have to Zoom and Kumo Space don't really like talk to each other particularly well, so you have to like mute one or close one for the other to sort of work, or open one from mobile and one from desktop. Okay, so yeah, thank you again for the talk, and
my pleasure.
And also yeah, thanks for building the GA Classic mode tool. We found it really helpful, and clients have also found it really helpful, given how the problems of trying to navigate the GA4 interface. So I think it's probably worth mentioning. I mean, because so with the paid version of GA Classic mode, do people get edit access to the LookerStudio on that?
Yes, the business model there is you can use it for free as long as you want, but when you want to customize it, then you can buy the template, and once you buy it, it's yours. You can white label, you can use it with your client, and there's no hidden anything there.
I think the amount of time that would save is worth probably a lot more than $39.
So, yeah, over 100 hours for sure.
Yeah,
I've tracked it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a great deal.
Yeah, that's the cheapest chips. Okay,